I've got my little Allegro workshop manual out. I've got the large one indoors, just to check on the valve clearance adjustments settings, because I want to check here. It says correct gap of 0.12 of an inch on a cold engine. That's the important thing. Make sure whether you're meant to check your engine cold or hot, because the Rover P4 I've got, the inlet tappets, you must check when they're warm, whereas this you can do it on a cold engine, which is fine. Now they've put this helpful table in here, and the reason being is because it says adjust number 1 when number 8 is fully open, right? And the reason they've given this table is because the next valve to be fully open is number 6. So they've done them in order of opening. So if you did them in numerical order, so number 8 open and then number 7 open, you'd have to keep turning the engine over and over and over to get the right valve to open. So they put this list in so you can start with number 8 open, and then they know the next one is going to be 6. So it's just nice to have this little order. Now before we check the tappets, a little thing to remember is you're going to be turning the engine over to get the tappets and the valves to all move. To make that process a lot easier, if we remove the spark plugs, which we're going to do anyway to service them or replace them, if we remove the spark plugs first, any built-up compression in the engine is just going to pop out of the holes, which makes turning over the engine a lot easier and makes checking the tappets easier. So I'm going to pop my leads off. I'm going to put them all off at once. And what I want to say to you is do not mess up the order of these leads. They are in a specific firing order. So if you mess them up, it's really going to mess the engine up. Or, well, it probably won't start, to be honest. Now I've got a little gadget on here that all my leads are clipped into, so I can see the number cylinder that each lead goes to. I'll show you. See, I've got it here. There's number one. Number 1 cylinder is normally the cylinder that's nearest the fan belt end. So that'll be cylinder 1, cylinder 2, cylinder 3, and then cylinder 4. And then that one there is symbolising the coil, which you can't get wrong anyway. We're not going to disconnect the coil. So yeah, I can pop all mine off, and I know they're in order. You can write on yours. You can put a 4 on there, 3 on there, 2 on there, and 1 on there. Or some people like to put little cable ties or something. So 1 cable tie on here, 2 little cable ties there, 3 on there, just so they know which lead goes where. So don't mix these up. Be careful when undoing spark plugs. Make sure you've got a nice socket on there with a little rubber insert inside, and try not to be too harsh on them. Try not to sort of let them go at an angle, because you can snap them off, which is a pain. We don't want to be snapping them. So if they feel a little bit too tight for you, put a bit of WD-40 or something on the threads. It doesn't matter if you mix these up, they're not numbered, but it is nice to look at them. That's a nice healthy looking plug. It's not black, it's not wet, it's nice and clean. So what we'll do is we'll get a wire brush, give that a little clean up, and that can go back in, I reckon. That one's a bit sooty, a bit oily. Oh, that one's very dirty looking, isn't it? Gross. Now, I haven't got any new spark plugs at home, but I have sent a certain someone out to the shop to look for some. There we are, that one's not too bad. I mean, it's common for the two in the middle to look dirtier than the others because the carburetor just dumps fuel in wherever it wants, and the fuel is sort of directed into these cylinders here. They're in the middle as well, so they're probably going to be running the hottest. So I wouldn't worry too much about it. We'll just give them a clean up, and then if Raimi turns up with the new set, we'll probably just put the new set in, to be honest. They don't cost that much. Here we are, wire brush. Don't be afraid of it. Give it a good scrub. Get in there. You can see it's a lot cleaner, and that's what we're looking for. You can use some stuff like contact cleaner, or I've got this throttle valve cleaner. You can give it a little spray up as well, just to give it a clean. Look at that, it's like new. You can clean all the thread up as well, but this is the important bit where the spark is created between these 2 points here. And that's another thing, you can check the gap on the plugs as well while you're here. The gap's normally pretty spot on when you get them out the box, to be honest, but why not, let's check them. Right, here's my feeler gauge set. I've just looked in the manual, it says between 0.24 and 0.26 the gap on the plug should be. So this is 0.25 feeler gauge, so let's see. Yeah, I mean that slides in there nicely. So then if I get the 2.26 gauge, which is that fella, there you go, that fits in there a bit tighter. So it's a little bit loose, you could just adjust the gap a little bit. Adjusting the gap a little bit, for me, if you're going to close the gap, just gently tap it, and that should close it up a bit. Where's my 2.5 gap one? Where you gone? There you are. So you can feel already that's a bit better, so we give it another little tap. You just don't want to go too mad with it. Oh, there you go. That's a lovely fit. You can feel it rubbing on both sides. So that's it. The gap is perfect on that. But honestly, don't worry too much about it. As long as it's not way obviously way out. You know, if it's touching, there's no gap, is there? And you've got a problem where you probably dropped one in the box or something. But yeah, you can clean each one up and check the gap if you want. Alright, it's time to get the rocker cover off. So, you've got this vacuum advanced pipe, you can just pull that off of the distributor. Don't forget about it, you need to put that back when we're finished. Crack these off. Now, on the oil cap here, it says renew cap every 12 months or every 12,000 miles. It's a breather cap, and to be honest, I don't replace. I replaced it last time I serviced it, and I just don't feel the need for it. I mean, please leave a comment down below if you think otherwise, but I don't know, I haven't done the miles. I just don't think she really needs this changed every year. I think it's a bit much. I mean, how many miles do I do a year? I probably don't even do 3,000 a year in Peggy. So I really don't think she needs a new cap. That was a 5/8 spanner I used for these. Ta-da! Now here is a gasket. Once again, I haven't got another gasket. I thought I did. But I know this gasket's not that bad. So I'm going to clean this gasket up. Clean all the oil off, make sure it's nice and dry. We're going to clean the mating surface of the cover, and then we're going to clean the mating surface of the block here, just to make sure there's no oil on there when we go to put the cover back on. Right, it's a really big socket you need for the crank. This is a 34mm. I think this is the same size to get the steering wheel off. Not sure. It's a little bit loose on the crank. You know, it's probably imperial rather than metric, perhaps. But without the spark plugs in, there's hardly any compression. So we're not putting too much force on it. So down there is the crank. So you'll be able to turn the engine over like that. Turn it clockwise. I don't know what happens if you turn it anti-clockwise, but I don't think it would like it. I don't know. I'm not sure. So let's look at the manual with my King Dick spanner on. Love a bit of King Dick. What have we got here? So adjust number 1 when number 8 is open. So where's my gauge? I got it out ready. 0.12. So we want to adjust that one. And that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So this one needs to be open, and when they say open, the valve needs to be open, that needs to be fully down. So let's turn it until that one goes down. Might be a little way. Here it goes. See it? Sorry if I'm wobbling. It's going down. It's going down. Right. You see, it's just started to come back up. So if I just go back a little bit, so that valve there, because the valve, if you don't know, is underneath this spring basically. So now the valve inside the engine is pushed open, so it's down, open in the engine. So that is now ready, or that one is now ready to be checked, and the way we check it is in this gap here. Oh, and that is a perfect gap. That is absolutely gorgeous, that is. It slides in and out. You can feel it gripping both sides. So if that was all like wobbly, and when I say wobbly, like, you know, loose, if you could easily just slide that in and out and tinkle it around in there, then that will need adjusting. Or if you can't get that in at all, it would need adjusting as well. Now that's perfect. So the next one on the list is adjust number 3 with number 6 open. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. As you can see, 6 is pretty much down. Let's have a look. One tiny little movement, and that is now fully open. So now we check number 3. Now that to me, and it's a shame you can't sort of feel it on the camera, but that is a bit loose. That's a bit too easy to get in and out. It's too easy, not like that one was. So yeah, I'm going to adjust that. Minor adjustment. So to adjust this fella, we need to, and I'm going to put the camera down in a minute, so hopefully you'll be able to see it, but that's a 7/16 spanner on that nut there, yeah? So it's the opposite end of the end that we're checking. So we're going to loosen that off whilst holding this still. And then once we've loosened that nut off, we can then turn very slightly this screwdriver clockwise, and then we can keep that still again and do that nut up, and then we can recheck this to see if it's tight enough, because it's only a minor adjustment. I don't even know if you can see me moving that. Very minor. Now we can recheck it. Still a little bit loose. So remove it again. Very minor. There we go, and that's got that nice firm grippy feeling. Beautiful. So I'm going to check all the others now without you. I'm sure you don't need to see each one being checked, you get the rough idea now, and then I'll show you if there's any more discrepancies. Right, I'm back again. I have found another discrepancy. So I've got number 1 fully open, and I'm meant to be checking number 8, and I can't get my feeler gauge in there. So number 8 is too tight, and I don't know if you've ever heard the saying, a noisy tappet is a happy tappet, because if this is too tight, what that means is at the moment this valve is supposed to be closed. But if this is too tight, this valve will actually be a little bit open, and it can cause damage to the valve and all sorts. So having a tight tappet is not a good thing. So yes, this needs adjusting the other way. It needs to be loosened. It's such minor adjustments. There she is. It's in, and it's a nice tight fit. That's great. Lovely, lovely, lovely. I know. Sacrilege. I'm reusing the old gasket. Amy hasn't turned up with one, so I'm going to put the old gasket back on for now. And then I'll order one up, and if it looks like it's leaking, then I'll replace it. If it doesn't look like it's leaking, then I won't even bother. Spark plugs, yeah, again, he hasn't turned up with any yet, so I'll put the old ones in for now. So next up would be, we'll fit this back on to stop any particles getting into the top of the engine whilst it's exposed. I'll probably look at the air filter, because I've got a replacement air filter, so we'll have a look at the air filter. And we've still got the dizzy cap to look at, yeah. So I put the gasket in the recess of the cover first. If it won't stay there, you can use a small amount of spray adhesive, like a carpet glue, just to keep the gasket in place. There's no need to use gasket sealant or what's that other stuff called, that evil stuff, I can't remember what it's called now. Something weld. Don't use that. You'll never get the blooming thing off again. So I'm just cleaning up my little nuts. Somebody's dumping a yellow car on the driveway. Is this my van replacement for work? Oh look, it's Ramy. Let's see if he got any supplies. Did you get any supplies? Oh, you always got supplies. Yay, coolant and spark plugs, just after I put the old plugs back in. That's typical.